The big thing, you step back in the big picture, is the tweet that Karl Anthony Towns sends out last night saying WTF, and who can blame him? He's been there 7 seasons. He's had 4 coaches in 7 seasons. This will be his 5th general manager in 7 seasons. If you're him, I'm sure you're sitting back, and he hasn't been, a guy who's rattling his saber about getting traded out of there. That's not been something that he's done. But now I think you have an impetus to maybe set that in motion. And if you're the Timberwolves front office, that's going to scare you.
Yeah, you can feel the vultures circling already, right? I mean, and this is the biggest part of the NBA is team building. Everybody wants to talk about team building, trade for this. That's what fuels the NBA offseason. The offseason is all about who's trading for who's going where, et cetera, et cetera. And I guess if you look at, the 3 guys that we're going to be talking about here and maybe potential fits with the Celtics possibly, Karl Anthony Towns is someone that our very own Cedric Maxwell has been advocating that Boston trade for. I've been hesitant because he keeps including Jaylen Brown, and I don't want any part of that. I'd love to add, Cat to Jaylen and Jason if it's possible. But does Karl Anthony Towns feel like a fit in Boston to you, Sean?
Oh yeah, sure. But you're going to have to give up Jaylen Brown. I mean, there's no way to make that work without. Right. You're going to have to give up something. It's not going to be Tatum. It's going to be Jaylen. And so you've got to decide if that's the move you want to make. And then you do have to look at the body of work. I mentioned, the turmoil that we've seen in Minnesota over the course of Towns' career. But at the same time, you have to say, okay, but where has he improved? Where has he gotten better? What has his role been in that team consistently underachieving? And that's where you have to really say, okay, is this a guy we want on our team that we want to build around, given the fact that he wasn't able to get it done in Minnesota himself?
I guess I'll just ask for the sake of this being a Celtics themed show, it's fodder. It doesn't really mean anything, but your opinion, any of us can weigh in on this, obviously, but to Max's point, as Evan brought him up, he was a strong, staunch advocate of bringing in Karl Anthony Towns, pairing him with Jason Tatum. Obviously, like you said, it would cost you Jaylen Brown and more, probably. I don't see that as being a 1-for-1, but what do you think is the better fit? Would you rather have, look at the complete package, look at the skill set, look at the age, look at the contract, look at injury history, look at everything that is on the table. Would you rather have Brown and Tatum or Tatum and Towns?
Tatum and Towns. When you get a guy his size who can move the way he does and has the potential to be the kind of inside-out player offensively that he should be, and like I say, I don't think that even in 7 years he's really done enough to get to the peak of that potential. Part of that might be the organization, part of that might be the guy. But there's still more there for Karl Anthony Towns. Still a young guy, and certainly can improve. But I think the combination of size, athleticism, and like I say, that unfilled potential, that would be too intriguing for me to pass up. If it cost you Jaylen Brown, then I'd say you'd have to do it. But I'd be surprised if it comes to that.
I just don't see, taking Boston out of the equation, just talking about Towns and a trade in Minnesota in general, I just don't see the Timberwolves being anywhere close to making a move like this, short of obviously him just demanding his way out of town, as people thought was going to happen with whether it was Beal or Lillard, and is going on with Ben Simmons, that type of situation, going full James Harden in Houston, because you got the new ownership group now. You got this disaster that you're trying to clean up after a very uninspiring offseason. All of a sudden, you're trying to rally fans back right before the start of a year, even partway into a year, and we're trading the face of the franchise. This went well when we did it with Kevin Garnett. We're going to do it with Karl Anthony Towns now. Hope you guys forgive us.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's going to happen unless Towns forces it, and I think that's why, if you're in that front office and you see that tweet last night, that's, as bad as everything else that they're going to have to deal with, that they are dealing with today is, that's the back of my mind, is I got to get on the phone with Karl Anthony and make sure that he's cool and that he understands where we're going and why all this is happening. Because as soon as he starts angling to get out of there, it's going to be really good. That's a road that it's really difficult to come back from. And I will say, like, he's never been a guy who needed to play in a big market. He's never been a guy who, he's happy in Minnesota. He wants them to win. He wants to see some direction. He wants to see them building towards something, which they haven't done in the 7 years that he's been there. But it's not like he needs to, he's from New Jersey, but he doesn't need to go to New York. He doesn't need to play in a big market. And if you're Minnesota, you've got to appreciate that and make sure that if WTF is the question, then you've got to have some answers for it.
So maybe this is well publicized and I just don't know, but we knew like LeBron and the Banana Boat crew. We knew, Kyrie and Durant and Harden and DeAndre Jordan and that type of thing. Who's Towns close to in the league?
Well, D'Angelo Russell. That's why when they made that trade, it was seen as something to make him happy. So they made the Wiggins for D'Angelo Russell trade in part to keep Karl Anthony Towns happy. That's probably the guy he's closest to in the league.
Yeah, it's just for me, not a strange fit. The fit makes sense. The only reservations I have is, you have Ime Udoka, who's going to be primarily a defensive head coach, a team that, is going to want to play better defense than they played last year for sure. And we've seen it throughout Towns' tenure that, defensively, he's just not what he should be, considering the size, the speed, the length, the presence at the rim. And I thought maybe with KG being there, that 1 year that they overlapped might help him. And it just, and again, part of that, is maybe not even on Towns. So we've talked about all the GMs, all the coaches, all the players in and out. Like maybe this isn't the, Big Cat's fault. Maybe it's, the circumstance why he hasn't gotten better defensively. And I guess if Boston wanted to know, what he's really like, they have a great asset in Kevin Garnett who could get on the phone and start talking about him. So there's that too. The other side of that is Karl Anthony Towns has never played with anybody as good as Jason Tatum. And I think the problem with Cat might be like, maybe he's not a true one. Maybe he's like one of the highest quality number twos you can get, much like an Anthony Davis, right? Davis he has all the skills and talent of a one, but like for some reason isn't the one on a championship team, but is like the highest end two humanly possible, only because LeBron is the number one in that scenario. So maybe bringing Towns to Boston would help balance him out a little bit, where he doesn't have to have the ball at the end of the shot clock, end of the game to make a play. That's going to be more on Tatum, but he can be like that secondary star that can really, take a lot of pressure off Tatum in terms of creating the half court. So like there are certain pluses and minuses. Do you think some of them outweigh the others, Sean?
Yeah. And like, what you said about defense is spot on. And I mentioned that offensively too, that he just never has really become, he could be a really good 3-point shooter. And obviously, has the skill to be a great post player. And is kind of in between on both of those. And it's the same on defense. He should be a great rim protector. He should be a guy who, can guard the rim and a second half later can be out challenging a shot, out at the 3-point line. But we haven't seen that much from him. And I think that's the real issue, is why, is that on the organization? Don't forget that Kevin Garnett was there. And shortly thereafter, the owner kind of chased him out of town, because he had this deal, the whole thing with the ownership group, why that wasn't better handled by Glenn Taylor, who knows? But it chased Kevin Garnett out of town. So if you had this asset that could have helped Karl Anthony Towns, now he's gone. He's not shown up with the Timberwolves again. So it's hard to explain exactly why he hasn't fulfilled all of his potential. But even having said that, look at his numbers, look at his play. We're talking about him as a disappointment. He's got great. He's been fantastic. He's got these great numbers. So that even when there's another level for him to go, he's already at a pretty high level.